Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're very honored today to have Diana McPherson. She's a wildlife conservation photographer, environmental educator, traveler, photography instructor, podcaster, and blogger. So she's going to do, I'm sure, a wonderful presentation. Again, your videos are off and your mics are muted. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we can discuss them with Diana afterwards. So thank you and welcome, Diana.
Great, thank you for having me and welcome everyone. Give me just a second to get my screen sharing going so I can put my slideshow on. Oops, start. Oh, okay, I don't have that rainbow wheel of death for too long. Okay, all right, can everyone see this okay? Is it coming through?
Yes, it looks good.
Sure, okay. All right, so welcome. So I'm going to talk about photographing wild horses and how you can use your images for not just fine art, but conservation and cataloging as well. Um, Here we go. Okay, so Chris kind of said most of this already. Um, Couple additional parts I guess I can throw in there. I am obviously wild horse advocate. I serve on the NAMPA Ethics Committee, and NAMPA is North American Nature Photography Association. And I am also on the board with a local art group called Artworks Northwest. And we're based here in Southeast Washington in the Tri-Cities. And I love to do just pretty much everything. So as you can see, I guess I have to click on here. Sorry. For some reason, my little arrows aren't working. So seeing wild horses is a very special experience, and it's actually really soul touching. I pretty much get really excited when I photograph all wildlife, but the wild horses just have a different, certain type of aura that just really draws you in. And it's really, really fun and really exciting to just spend time with the herds and watching the dynamics within the herds. And sometimes you'll see them just kind of standing around, look like they're standing. They may be resting or chasing each other and even, bucking to either get potential mate away or if the horse just feels threatened. Sometimes it'll be just kind of a warning to back off. And then other times you get the full-on stallion battle, which is really exciting to see. Other times you can witness really tender moments, like the full nursing, or a pair just nuzzling. And even young foals who are playing around but learning really vital skills for when they get a little bit older and probably need to be fighting each other. They are very playful animals, and anytime is really a good time for a good roll in the dirt. Also, shaking off all the excess dirt. Taking a dip to cool off in the watering holes, or taking a full-on mud bath and giving that full-on don't judge me look. So not all herds are found in dry air lands with small watering holes. In Arizona, along the Salt River, is the herd that is referred to as the Salties. And you'll find these, it's east of Phoenix and just north of Gilbert. So they roam around the riparian corridor and the surrounding Sonoran. You see my, oh, there's my cursor. Okay, and the surrounding lower Sonoran desert scrub. They feed on the river grass by submerging their muzzles into the water. And it's a technique that they refer to as snorkeling. And that's coming up with a mouthful of the river grass. So some tips on photographing the wild horses. First thing, most importantly, is to keep your distance. You want to try to keep 100 feet away for your safety and for the horse's safety. Now, horses are very curious. You can see all the vehicles here. They are very curious about the vehicles. If you're in your vehicle and they happen to come up to your vehicle, just stay in your vehicle, roll up the windows because you don't want their head coming in through the window. And if you're out on the field, keep a good distance away. Now, I saw this person really go into the herd, which I was standing way back outside of the herd and just thought, okay, this person's going way too close and getting in there. Because even though right now, this view, the horses are just grazing and very calm, before this part, there were many more horses together and they were very calm. And then it just took a split second. You hear the sounds, and then all of a sudden there's two stallions that are rearing up and fighting each other. It's really not safe to get that close to the horses because of that. You know, they can just respond so quickly. So this is back at Salt River, and these people are just standing on the edge of the bank, and they're a good 100 yards or 100 feet away. And so this is a good distance. And if the horses were to start approaching closer, you could just easily back away from them. So another thing for photographing is absolutely no drones. And I should probably don't need to go into the reasons for that. When you're photographing, we all love the close-up images, but also try to get the surrounding habitats of the horses, whether it's the mountains, the grasses and the shrubs, or the the river and the desert scrub, just to give them a better sense of place. And anyone else looking at the images gives them a good sense of place of where these horses are. And the horses will move around and give you different options for photographs. So like a front portrait or a side portrait or a portrait while they're grazing in the river, and even capturing the snorkeling behavior. So snorkeling, they're able to exhale once they get into the water so that they're able to get the grasses. Now the action happens really fast. So my suggestion is if you're using a zoom, whether you're hand holding or using a tripod, for a zoom lens, when you start seeing this stuff happen, zoom back or pull back on your zoom so you don't miss the action. Because obviously this happened very fast and I was not expecting it. So I totally missed it. But if you pull back, then obviously you won't miss it. If you use a prime lens, obviously you can't pull back on the zoom. But if you're using the tripod and maybe the gimbal head, I've got one now and I really like it. Try to keep the gimbal head just a little bit loose. So for the gimbal, if you're not familiar with the gimbal, you have the rotation to turn it, and then also a side knob to kind of I guess not rotate, because rotate would be turning it, but to lift it like a little bit forward, a little bit back. If you keep that slightly loose so that you have a little bit of mobility in that, that'll be easier to adjust for that fast action, and so that you don't miss it, because it's much more interesting to have a photograph of the heads of the stallion fighting versus just their bodies. And then sometimes you may get really, really cool shot but you're kind of like, wow, these other horses are just kind of in the way of this picture. So what do? You just kind of zoom it in, or sorry, not zoom it in, but crop it, and then get yourself a more dramatic and intense image. So horses tend to stay in their herds, but there are individuals who will be wandering around on their own. And from your safe spot, of course, whether it's in the car or just next to your car, just follow them, or not physically follow, but just kind of track them, their movements. The horses really love the any post out on the fields that they can come up and scratch, and just keep following them. Let them be themselves. They'll move around. You get some different pictures and different angles. So a side portrait, and just stay relaxed and very quiet, and don't move around a lot because you want the horse to not get stressed and not feel threatened by your presence. And if you're quiet and just really still, then you just kind of become part of the landscape, and so it won't stress them out. And let them move around, and then you can kind of reposition yourself just a little bit, but they'll move around enough to where you'll get a lot of really good angles. And I just keep photographing and getting pictures. Some are good, some are like, yeah. But I stayed patient, and actually, this is the one out of this entire series of this one particular horse, of which, let's see, the series was 208 frames. But this is the one that I chose to print. I just really like the look of this, the way the mane is just going over the eye, and that little side look and the tail swoosh. Just was my favorite of all of the images. And you can continue watching as they go about their grazing and their movements. And at least with this horse, I got the last little eye-to-eye contact, and also left side portrait. And then the horse just continued further down the range. So while you're out on the range, don't be afraid to get artistic. Just try something different. Just happened to see, I don't know, this little view and just thought I would give it a try. So if you want to give me any little feedback in the comments, go for it. And while you're out on the range, as we all possibly know, it's pretty much an all-day endeavor because it takes a while usually to get out to a range, and it could take a while to find the horses. And so you're not going to be, like when you're photographing from home, I'll go out in the morning, sunrise, and I'll photograph for 2, 3 hours. And then, oh, sun's up too high. It's like, it's kind of harsh. I'll go in. And you don't really have that choice, that option, or you don't want to take that or use that option. So work with the conditions. And so this one, it was getting really bright. So I just tried to work with it and did some high key photography. And if no one's familiar with high key, I'll explain a little bit of that at the end of this. Just how to photograph those. Can I do that? Okay. I just admitted someone else. So the HMAs tend to be pretty remote. And so it's always really good to definitely check the weather before going out. So in the winter months, so this is from the Anaki herd out in Utah in April. And so they were still getting some snow, but it wasn't too much snow. And so I went out. All the roads on the leading up to the HMA were fine. And so I assumed that the roads out there on the HMA would be good. And they were totally fine. And my goal for that, having the snow conditions, was I really, really wanted to get a picture of the snow falling with the horse there, which didn't quite happen, but got kind of close. So, but the conditions for the roads out there, most of the roads at the few HMAs that I've been to are dirt. So definitely do not recommend going out when it's raining because it'll just be mud and it'll just uh, you'll have the potential of getting stuck somewhere. And that's not something that you want to have happen. So just be careful for the conditions and the weather. And also in regards to camera gear, be careful, like in the spring, the winds get really kicked up. And so again, this is out at Anaki, and I was out this April. This might have been just a little, oh no, sorry, this was in the summer. And so it was very, very hot. And actually, most of the horses, I couldn't even find them. So in April, those other photos, we saw the herd, a couple hundred horses. And then I went back out, I think this was in July, and so hot. And I think all the horses were pretty much hiding back here at the base of the mountains in the trees where it was all shaded. But this one small herd came out to come up to the watering trough up here. And I had been parked back over here, and there's maybe, I think, 8 or 10 horses. And it was too hot for them to be active. So I just kind of let them be. And then I came back down the road, and the winds picked up, and all this dirt just started flying, this huge dirt cloud. So I stayed in the car and just managed to, so I could figure out the direction that the wind was blowing and wanted to put the wind to my back and actually have the car positioned to where it was protecting me. Because you do not want to get stuck with the out in the wind, especially like this with the dust blowing around. Had I stayed up here when this dust cloud came through, I would have just had to roll up the windows and close all the vents to just make sure that I wasn't going to get any dust because that's the last place you want any dust is in your camera and in your lens. This dust cloud came across, covered the horses. Those two actually had disappeared too, and then it just drifted on away. So, and another one, when you're going out to the ranges, if you're going either on your own or even with someone else, let someone back home know where you're going and when you plan to be back. These, the ranges, like we said, are pretty far out there. And a lot of times there's very limited, if any, cell coverage. And the roads can be kind of rough. So, things can happen. You don't want those to happen, obviously, but it's just best to be prepared and not need it than to not. So, okay, so let's go into some conservation. So using your photographs to help share about the horses and also to share the ecological benefits of the wild horses. And when the horses are running across the range, it looks like something very simple, but what they're actually doing while they're running, they're aerating the soil. They are providing natural fertilizer as they move around. They're increasing the soil nutrients and they're spreading plant species. So all of these actions together all increase the plant variety and provide food for pollinators. And their grazing also can be considered a part of vegetation management. So they eat the grasses and non-native grasses also, and the dry vegetation from any of the shrubs. So by removing the dried vegetation, they're actually promoting new growth for that plant. And then while removing the dry vegetation and the grasses, they are reducing fuels And so they're being natural. It's a natural fire prevention. So the horses also help increase biodiversity by creating habitat for other species, like we've said for pollinators, and then also um, maintaining open spaces and providing water by digging. And so we have the prairie dogs, and so they'll have their burrows. So other animals that need burrows are the badgers. And I know I saw badgers when last time I was out at Salt Wells Creek. And unfortunately, I didn't get a photo because it was so fast and we were so excited, couldn't work the two together. um, and lots of different bird species. Oh, and then also with the prairie dogs, also that creates their burrows, provide habitat for burrowing owls to come into the area. Lots of birds, meadowlarks, various hawks in the area. And the horses also keep the habitat very healthy to help support endangered species like the greater sage grouse. Some other ways that you can use your images for conservation is to donate them for a cause. So a lot of photographers each had donated these images. So these are from a variety, each image is from a different photographer who goes out to all the different ranges here in the West. They were donated to Linda Greaves from Save America's Wild Horses when she attended the Wild Horse Lobby Week in DC last March of 2025. So each image went to a senator so that that senator could see the magic of the horses and um, and really get I just forgot the phrase for it, pull at the heartstrings of the senators so that they could see this and help support the protection bills that have been going through. And I think all that did help was very, very helpful for them. So another um, way to use images for conservation is to document the grazing. Um, there is just no question for the way that they graze. This is a little video. There it goes. Um, when you can actually see it. I know there's been lots of um, talk and probably more argument from one side to another about the grazing, this and that. But this is very obvious how the horses nibble, nibble, nibble as they move along the range. Whereas, oops, sorry, that was a little longer than I thought it was. But yeah, as we know, so horses obviously do not stay in one place and just eat everything in that one spot. So they're very selective eaters. And so in comparison to sheep and even cattle, so yeah, oh, this is really jumpy. Sorry. Um, I got this while we were driving because there were a couple other, I don't know, cowboys, I guess, kind of watching the side. So I felt kind of weird stopping to photograph them. But you can just see all the sheep just standing in place and grazing. So I think that's just really good to have documentation of the grazing behaviors. And this is not a fun thing, but if anyone's able to attend the roundups, and this is not my photo, you can see the little logo in the bottom that I borrowed this from um, American Wild Horse Conservation webpage. But if you're able to attend roundups and document what is happening. I know a lot of people have been there, I've seen a lot of stuff on social, but I think just the more that we can get out and the more we can make transparent what's happening, the better. And then also, if we see them at the holding pens, to document what is happening with those horses. And if these two, if this mama and the foal were out on the range, this foal, sorry, I wanted to say calf, no, it's wrong. This foal would not look like this, I'm quite sure. And it's just not a good way to see them behind bars. But people need to see that. It's not something that we want to see necessarily, but it's something that I think we have to see and people need to see it so that they understand um, what's happening. And when you share images, use hashtags. Feel free to take a screenshot of all these hashtags here. Um, this is not all of the hashtags that could possibly be used, but it's a good number of them. And with the hashtags, I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with hashtags, but it just helps to direct the images towards other people who are interested in various things. So various topics. So maybe other people are interested in wildlife photography, but weren't really familiar with wild horses. Or maybe there's other people who aren't so much into horses, but want to know about fire prevention. And then they see this other stuff from horses. Oh, wow, we can work as natural wildfire prevention. Oh, that's cool. So you can kind of mix it around, and there's a whole bunch of others I'm sure that'll come up if you're putting those in with Instagram. The two on the bottom here, these two down here. So this one, I just noted the state and wild horses. And so wherever you're photographing from, if it's Nevada, Colorado, etc., I would do the state wild horses and then probably also just hashtag the state. And then also hashtag the city that you're closest to. Like for the Utah, I could do Tooele wild horses and or even Salt Lake City, just to get more of a reach out to other people. And then list the name of the herd, hashtag name of the herd. And so like hashtag on key wild horses, or you could do hashtag Salt Wells Creek wild horses, etc. But that'll just help to to direct it into certain locations and other people's feed potentially. And I think it's really important too that we bring to the attention to the local communities, especially if the mayor and the city council people, the economic benefits of wild horses from ecotourism. So we all go out to various herd areas, and if we're visiting, traveling from any distance, really, we're going to require lodging. We're going to need to eat, and we're going to need to have transportation. And so this is all obviously money that we're bringing into their communities, and we need to really stress that to the heads of these communities to let them know that these horses are really important to be out here on this range. So last year at Save America's Wild Horse Conference that Linda held in Craig, Colorado, brought in about 50 people to that small community. And we were there for several days. So everyone had lodging. We all had to eat and we all had to get gas. And then at the end of it, about half of us continued up to Rock Springs, Wyoming to go out to Salt Wells Creek. So again, more lodging, more food, more transportation that we brought money into those communities. So maybe when we go visit these herds, we could start letting the mayor and city council and any other people who run things, I guess, let them know I really enjoyed the horses and, eating at this establishment or stayed here, et cetera, so that they're aware that of the economic benefits, all the money that we're bringing into these communities. Okay. So now we're going to move on to um, protecting the horses by cataloging. So the only herd that I am familiar with that has a full um, documented catalog is the Onaki catalog, and that's the herd that's out in Utah, just near Tooele, west of Salt Lake City. And the Onaki Foundation, their catalog, it began with one person documenting observations or documented observations of these horses. And it just evolved into a full scientific catalog with over 500 individual horses. And actually they've counted just over 700 now to date. So because it became so big, and then they became a 501c3, and on their website they list the HMA boundaries. They keep records and share the records of the grazing allotments, and also which horses are being darted with PZP. They also have information that includes fact-based, that is fact-based information, sorry, and data. And I feel that having these catalogs, this documentation for each of these horses in these herds is really important. And I think it would be really helpful for when these roundups do happen, that we would be able to have like a better solid record of which horses unfortunately get captured, which ones may be released, which ones go to the holding corrals. Because I think some of the corrals also hold horses from other, I think it depends on the corral, but I think they hold horses from other herd areas as well. But I just think it would be really helpful to track them. And if they are in that position, that we'd be able to track them when they get to that point for adoption. That'd be a little easier, possibly, to keep the families together and try to keep the whole herd, or at least the families, together. So, for example, this horse right here, this is the one I showed earlier. This one is named Rockstar Surfer Dude, and this is from Onaki, of course. And this horse was captured on July 17th, 21, and then it was released August 9th of 21. And then I photographed it September 27th of 21. But this horse is in the catalog, and all that information is in there. It's all kept up to date. And they know that this horse is a bachelor in the northern herd, so it doesn't have necessarily, it's like its own little family herd. It's just the bachelor likes to hang out on its own, or maybe with some of the other boys. And they give the horses all identification numbers too. It's not just common names. They have this whole number right here is unique for each horse. So they list the herd area. So OQ is for Onaki. The number, the ID number here is for the horse number. This was, horse number 10. Rockstar Surfer Dude was horse number 5. And then another more recent one I would looked at, and I'll show in just a few minutes, was I think number 733. So the color tags here refer to the horse colors. So bay, cream, gray, etc. down here, and then any modifiers, D for dun and roan. And so those little code numbers will, or letters, excuse me, will be up here. And then the last letter is going to be either capital S for stallion or capital M for mare. And so that is that horse's ID. This is just a map of the on-key HMA. And so Tooele is just up this way. Salt Lake City would just be right over here. It's about an hour's drive because you have to go up 80 and come down this way. Part of one of the cool things, I guess, about this area is that this road, this main road down here, was the is the historic um, Pony Express route. And when you get down, my cursor, when you get down here to Simpson Springs, there's a campground, and there are some remnants of some of the buildings from the Pony Express time, which was very short-lived, actually. They have some signs out there. It was only about 18 months that this whole program existed. So, but you can see the range here, and it's a really big area. So I said here, coming in from Tooele, and another way, there's a military base right up here, Dugway, and that's another way to come in from the north side. So on the in the catalogs, they will list, this is all the information that I was just talking about for identifying the for each horse, and they'll give a common name pretty much by whoever submits a photo can give them a name. And it gives all this information, this list here when they were rounded up and when they were released. And sometimes each of the horses may have a little note like this, that they need some more images. So you can absolutely submit images to the Oniki Foundation if you've got photos from the horses there. So definitely would need to get side views. If you can get left and right, that would be ideal. Sometimes, it depends on the horse, how they're going to behave if you can get one side or the other. But also get close up of the head, and to get any distinguishing markings like this one right here. And so this one was looking through the catalogs, and there was a very, very pixelated picture, and they had that little note that said, hey, we need photos of this horse. It was really hard to identify it with all the pixelations, but it had, you could see, at least in the pixelation, you can make out, the spotted coat. You can make out these socks on all four legs. And so I submitted photos and I said, hey, is it this horse? This might be the one that you're looking for. And sure enough, it was. And so he got some updated photos, and he wasn't identified other than his code number here, his ID number. But I got to name him, and Stardust. And part of why I got Stardust was this little mark on his cheek and his dusty coat, basically. This one is a new foal from last April, and it was just really interesting, very interesting looking foal. Its eyes were very intriguing. They were kind of like piercing. And I noticed once I had looked at the photos and zoomed in that it had these really bright white, very long eyelashes. And they seem long to me. Maybe that's kind of a normal thing, but they just really made it stand out for this horse. I submitted photos. Someone beat me to it and nicknamed her Miss Tumbleweed. And she's got her IDs. I chose Mystique, and she's going to be Mystique for me for always. So, but her ID number, so they don't have the OQ for her. They have UK, and that's not from across seas UK. This is standing or short for unknown. But horse number 733, Brown Pinto mare. And date of birth was in 24. And her dam is also unknown. And I think they listed her unknown because it was a new horse, I think, that had shown up, and they just didn't know exactly where that horse came from. And it's listed that they're with the East Herd, and I think that's just the ones that they joined. But anyone who had been regularly documenting East Herd horses were like, we don't know where this horse came from, but they're here now. So that's why they got the UK at the start of their ID number. And I think cataloging the horses also helps to increase the visitor's connection with the horses. So it encourages people to get involved in citizen science or participatory science, which I believe we're transitioning that to. Submitting photographs and naming the horses. And horses can have more than one common name. If you look through the Aniki catalog, you'll see some horses with one common name and some that have like two or three common names. And it just depends on who submitted photos. And I think the horse should be, called Mystique because that's just what I thought of when I saw her. And someone else may have a different name. But they keep the common names that are submitted, but that horse still has that one ID number. But as someone who submits to it, it kind of, I want to say in part that it sort of creates a type of kind of ownership, but not like ownership, like, I own my car, but um, you just feel more connected to this horse. And then it gives you a little bit stronger duty to help protect because you just have that deeper connection. I saw this horse, I photographed it. I submitted photos and I got to name this horse, it's just like, wow, this is like such a cool process. So you get this really, I think, a really deeper connection. Now, some other locations, like I said before, so this is the only herd I am aware of that has a catalog. I know that there are a lot of people who regularly go out to particular um, HMAs and photograph the horses, but I think that getting them uh, in a catalog that can be shared with others, especially someone new who wants to go out to see, like Rockwell Springs or just a different other herd that they've not been to before. And then they have an idea of the horses that are there. And then when they get photographs, then they'll have a reference point to use to either, just say like, oh yeah, this was the horse that I photographed, and they could share that, or they can, maybe submit new photos. And it probably does sound very daunting to start like a whole catalog database. But I think if those who photograph on a regular basis have the start of it, and I think it just needs to get like organized into the database or however the way that you want to do it. I know for Aniki, they publish it as a PDF. I'm sure it probably goes through some other software process, but it comes out through as a PDF for everyone to go through. So it could be time consuming, but that's just where you need to get other people involved. So enlist help. And good places I feel good places to get help would be from the local schools, high schools, community college, or universities. If you're in those areas, you have that access close by. Kids are always needing experience for using software or just working with somebody or working on a particular project that they might need to do for a class. Scout troops would also be another really good option because they are always doing the Eagle projects, and a lot of them, the ones that I've helped with, at least were environmentally focused, and I feel this would definitely fit with that. But whether it's one scout that needs to do a project, or maybe the whole troop could get involved and do something. But those are just a couple of resources to help bring all that information together to create a new database or a new catalog for each of the HMAs. So that's I believe is all that I've got for right now. So I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was very fascinating. And thank you for all your work and your advocacy. I
Oh,
think people are just mostly saying they really enjoyed your pictures and they enjoy
oh, thank you.
um, the information that you shared. Does anyone have any specific questions for Diana?
And look here in the oh, thank
Yeah, just
you.
really great photos and tips, and just another way to advocate, really, by sharing their images, telling their stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so does anyone need to know? I know it mentioned the high key photography. Does anyone want to know really quick, really brief how to do that? I've been kind of learning as I go and trying that. Yes, please. So when you're out and it's just really bright conditions, um, if you're focusing on the background, then your subject will tend to be darker and you can't see your subject. So you don't want that. So you want to adjust your focus point and your exposure to your subject, which will most likely um, overexpose the background, which is what I did in that photograph. And it just focuses on that subject. And I think it makes it look really cool. I know there is a dark key also, which I've not really figured out quite how to do that, just kind of going the opposite with it. I haven't really, I guess, had the opportunity to try it too much, but high key happens a lot just because, different sun exposures. Any offices where we should contact this?
I think really just making sure that you're speaking up with your federal legislators, I think is really important, especially right now. And again, we're going to have a presentation tomorrow on talking about the path forward and also issues facing wild horses and burros. And so I'm sure some of that information will come up too. So hopefully everyone will be able to make it for that. Does anybody else have any other questions for Diana?
Oh, I'm trying to scan through these really quick to see. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Diana, for being here, and thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. And I will see everyone tomorrow. We've got a full day of presentations. So thank you again, and I appreciate everybody.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
Thank you. Yep. Good night, everyone.